All right. Hey, everyone. We are going to finish up our install for Has tools. I'm doing this on Windows here, and there's going to be a couple Windows specific tricks. But generally, this should be applicable elsewhere. So we're installing VS Code here. Fire up your web browser, search VS Code. You should find one for code.visualstudio.com. Go ahead, get that. Hit the download link. It'll probably be here. If not, check up here. So you can select the right version. And that's going to start going. If you want, you can browse some information. It has, sort of its spiel, but it shouldn't take too long to download. And once it does, you can hit that installer and start going there. And so that will take a second. I don't quite know what that's about. That shouldn't happen. Let me go to my downloads. Oh, yep. I've had to walk through this a couple times because I've made some mistakes, but I'll go ahead and just grab the first one. So here we go. You'll get your license agreement. You will have some options. I'm going to go with the defaults. You might as well. And this is going to take a second, but shouldn't be too bad. And then once that happens, I'm actually going to jump over to Get Kraken. We can't quite do this yet, but you'll notice there's this button, Open All in VS Code Workspace. And so that's where we're going. You can just start up VS Code on its own and import all this stuff. But if you uncheck this box and hit finish and go back over to Get Kraken and hit that Open All in VS Code Workspace, basically you get the whole setup for free. So there will probably be a welcome screen for you that lets you choose the color scheme and things like that. You're welcome to customize whatever you'd like to. I've chosen all the defaults as is generally what we're doing here. And then you'll be brought to a screen sort of like this. And so what you'll see if you look over in this Explorer sort of tabby thing is we've got all of our class repositories. You've got the course materials, the forecasting, and the homework. And so you've successfully linked these things up. And in my case, you'll see there's a little green stuff here. This is something that I'm adding currently. And so as you make changes to your code, the green sort of indicates that you've added stuff, and that means it's being tracked already by Git Kraken, or rather just by Git. So we're going to get into what this stuff is in a second, but before we get there, if you are on Windows, hit Control-Shift-P, type in, oh boy, type in terminal, default profile. It popped up right away for me because I've already done this, and this is important for you to do. Make sure you select the command prompt option. Do not choose Git Bash, do not choose PowerShell, just choose command prompt. This is key to making sure that you can get your Python scripts running properly. And then once you've done that, or haven't done that if you are a macOS user, you can go over to this extensions tab. And Python will probably pop up here. You can hit install. If it doesn't, you can just search for it like anything else. And it will do its search thing and come up. You just want the Python extension from Microsoft. This is going to give us tools like IntelliSense, which is code completion, or like, if you don't quite remember the way to do something, it will offer suggestions. Linting, which is basically spell check for code, making sure that your code will run. Debugging, which is good for just, like if you have a problem that's slightly beyond what spell check can give you. It'll help you there. And then a bunch of other stuff that we're not going to get into right now, but we might in the future. So there are tons of extensions for VS Code. And so you can see a bunch for Python here. And as you expand your sort of data science and coding skills, you might check out some more of them. But eventually you'll get installed here, and that is good to go. So with that, we will return over to our documents or your whatever Explorer, and we'll go into, for this case, course materials 2022 or 22, and just open up this file called test.py, and it's got a bunch of things in it. That this is a Python code file. It's got a bunch of these print statements, and it's just going to do the same thing a bunch of times. But before we can run it, we need to tell VS Code how to run it. So to do that, Control-Shift-P again. This is your command palette. You're going to use it a lot. Python, select, interpret. Yeah, so once you type it out a little bit, it will come up. For me, it was, again, right away. I've done this already. We're selecting the thing that runs the Python code. What program do we use to run the Python code? And we just want to select at the workspace level so that all of our repositories use the same thing. Okay. So this only has base. And that's not quite what we want. So I'm actually going to go back a second. The next thing that you might do here, and I highly suggest you do, is open this terminal tab, select new terminal. It doesn't matter where you open it up in that little palette thing there. But once you do it, you should be able to type conda, and you'll see this message come out. Conda is a tool for managing and deploying applications, environments, and packages, blah, blah, blah. It's sort of the same thing that we saw with Git. Now, to create a new conda environment, what you want to do is conda create -n, which is the name. So dash in command line is like an option that stands for something. So here you can see -h stands for help, and -v stands for version. So -n here stands for name. This is something that you'll pick up along the way of using all of this stuff. But for now, just go ahead with it. And we're going to call it #tools. So once you do that, it will run conda to create a new environment. In my case, it says it already exists. Oh no, I cleared it out. So now it's saying, okay, you could update your conda here. If you want to do that, you can do that. We're not going to worry about it. And then the package plan is what's going to happen. We're going to create a new environment in this location. You know, our sort of home directory where all of our personal files live, miniconda envs has tools, which is what we call it. So yes, that is what we want. And then it will, do this, and it'll say to activate this environment, use conda activate has tools. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Conda activate #tools. Boom. Now we have #tools right here, and that means we're in the environment. Now, for this environment, let's install Python. Conda install Python. And that will do its thing. We're not going to get super deep into what you can and can't install here for the next couple of days, but eventually you will be a pro at conda installing things. Now, what this all says, again, package plan, what we're going to do. This is where we are, which you already know. What we're going to do is add or update Python. That's the only thing. And along with Python comes all of this other stuff that you got to make sure that you have. This is all of the dependencies. We're going to talk a lot about dependencies. These are just the things that make Python run. And so you can just hit enter there. This little bracket around the Y means the default answer is yes. You could also type Y and hit enter. Either way is fine. But once you do that, it's going to download and install Python in this environment. This environment is now shielded from the rest of your computer. So no matter how much you mess up an environment here, it will not hurt the rest of your computer. That's the entire goal here, is if something goes wrong throughout the class, we can just delete the environment and start over. We don't have to start over from installing Git. You don't have to reinstall Gitkraken. We don't have to reinstall VSCode. We don't have to reinstall any of this stuff. All we have to do is create a new environment. It's a much nicer way of working. It means there's way less headaches. Okay, now once you're here, you've got that. It will, just tell you it prepared it, it verified it, and it did it. Then you're good. You can, if you want, type in Python here, and this will bring you to a thing called a REPL, which really doesn't seem like it did anything, but it will say Python 3 point whatever, packaged by whatever, a bunch of info. You can type help, copyright, or credits, but basically that just means your Python install is working. And I'll talk more about REPL in lecture because it's a concept I want to dive into. But for now, we'll just type exit and then open parenthesis, close parenthesis. That's important. Make sure you do that, otherwise you'll get stuck in a loop. So go ahead, do that. It will exit you out of Python. You can hit the trash can. Let's kill this terminal. We have installed Python in a conda environment that is tied to this workspace, which has all of the code for the class. So we're completely isolated now. Next step is to make sure that we tie that conda environment to this workspace. So again, like I said, Control-Shift-P, select Python interpreter at the workspace level. And now you'll see there should be something called has tools as an interpreter. Just go ahead, click that. It will try to do something. I think normally it takes a little bit longer than that. Oh, we don't want to do that. Well, let's see if that worked. I think normally it will take a second longer, but okay, great. No, that did it instantly. So, okay, what's going on here? I hit run. It did some stuff. It made this new window again, then the terminal, which is basically just how you output data from program. So, okay, what does it tell us? Microsoft Windows. Okay, that's just the computer telling us what's going on. This thing says scripts activate. So what does that mean? That means start up the mini conda program. So it starts up the mini conda program, and from there, it activates that has tools environment that we just created. And then finally, python.exe kicks in and it runs our test program. So there's a bunch of the entire folder structure of how you get there, but there you go, test.py. So python.exe, test.py, boom, we have all this output. That means our program is working. It printed everything we wanted it to do. And then you're left, back in your session here, ready to go. So we can drag this down, and this is where you can start to see where we're going. Okay, no one really cares about this. You don't want to print the same thing a bunch of times. What you want to do is print a different thing. And you'll code up all you want. Oh, now you can just hit play again, and boom. Hello, has tools, fall 2022, a different thing. Now we can start coding in Python. Now you can start doing things like for loops, which I'll talk about. But just to give you a sense of this, if I want to print out a bunch of numbers, we can do that. Boom. Hello has tools fall 22, a different thing, and then a bunch of numbers. So now we're ready to go. We're ready to start programming finally. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. I hope we can all make this work, and I will see you in class.